Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Watson. My last name is Lockhart. I'd like to speak to everyone about my experiences with angels. Angels have been coming in more frequently in my sessions as usually in the capacity of spirit guides. And yet I have had a couple of clients who have been incarnated angels, which is really interesting. A lot of us probably have preconceived notions about what angels are and their roles in our lives and on earth. Kind of maybe a magical kind of being. Of course, the Bible has a lot to say about angels. And I wouldn't want to restrict them in any way by focusing on biblical references. And yet it is interesting. There have been many accounts and many books written about how angels intervene in a crisis, how people have called upon them, or angels have spontaneously appeared to assist with things. For example, someone trapped in a car that's been in a car accident and ready to burst into flames, and a figure just rushes in and carries them out of the flames. And so the roles of angels can be very interesting and also diverse. They can be called upon for help a lot of times. Some people seem to have a very personal relationship with angels. I've heard some of my friends, colleagues actually have a very strong rapport with Archangel Michael. He seems to be very active on Earth. And I myself was really blessed to develop a connection with Archangel Halileel. And he's not listed in the angel lore per se. I haven't seen him in any of the angel books or angel cards. And yet, when I was having Reiki sessions and training to be, I was apprenticing for a year to be a Reiki master teacher, I had this angelic presence that came in during one of my sessions. From that session on, he was there. And it was a masculine kind of energy. That's why I say he. My Reiki master was really taken aback because she felt the angel come in too, or the angelic presence, extremely tall, very tall, very strong energy. I could feel it on my left. And it was not until I trained to have past life regression with Paul Arand that at the end of the past life I had experienced, my strong desire was to meet with my guide. And it turned out that this angel was my guide for this work. Of course, we tend to have guides for different times in our lifetimes. There's usually one main guide, but certain guides can help us with various aspects of our lives and things we're working on. And Halileel identified himself, and I didn't know, I hadn't heard of him. So he had also given me some metaphors or symbols. There was when you're in the soul realm as pure soul awareness, there's a telepathic, or there are different ways they communicate. Halileel was handing me, in my experience, was handing me a sphere, and there were ripples coming out of it. And he was this enormous purple light, bright purple light. And the ripples were, I could tell he was telling me the ripples were the work that we do with LBL and how that ripples out to the earth and makes a difference. And also there was an amethyst, which is a kind of a general healing stone. So I really was taken aback and didn't know who he was. And when I returned to Maine after my training, I Googled his name, and it didn't come up right away, but then I found it in association with the Edgar Cayce readings. And years before that, probably 20 years before that, I had read Edgar Cayce, didn't remember Hallelujah specifically, but it was interesting reading Edgar Cayce's material about the angels. Um, and actually, all of his material is pretty interesting. He was known as the sleeping prophet, but had some amazing experiences in deep trance, amazing information that he shared with the world, and also a lot of healing information, ways that people could address certain maladies. So when I discovered who Hallelujah was, it kind of took me aback, because he called himself the Lord of Karma, and upon further, I read as much as I could read about it, and of course, meditating with his energy and having sessions where he clearly assisted me during my past life and life between lives work. But he's energetically very involved with awakening, the awakening of humanity, and the remembrance of oneness versus forgetfulness or separateness. So often we feel alone, we feel separate from everything and everyone. We may drift in and out of this throughout our lifetime, and yet Hallelujah is very much here to help awaken us, as one of the many forces that's hoping and trying to awaken us to our true nature, to the fact that we are all one, we're all part of source, if you will. One of the things about the Edgar Cayce material, you have to consider the channel, and he was very biblical and very religious. However, when you sift through and find the nuggets of truth, I feel that Hallelujah's presence, his energy is very useful for humanity at this time. There's so much going on with the us against them, or me against you, or all of this dissension and chaos and suffering, and yet remembering who we really are as souls, that we're all one ultimately. So the Lord of Karma also, to me, he had voiced through Edgar Cayce, Hallelujah has made the ways that have been heavy, but as the means for understanding. And as Dorothea mentioned, spiritual bypassing. In a sense, I can really appreciate the karmic school of how we learn. It may take a few lifetimes, it may take more than a few lifetimes to learn certain things. For example, some people may struggle with jealousy and low self-esteem, feeling as though they aren't enough, and someone else has it all, and that sort of thing. And karma can provide the circumstances for us to grow through that. It may not occur for a couple of lifetimes. It may be something that's tormenting a person as they incarnate, and maybe something that kind of hangs on for a while, a block, if you will. And yet, this is opportunity for growth as well. And the spiritual bypassing, to me, means, as Dorothea mentioned, going in through the back door. And that is, you're not confronting your issues. You're not being honest with yourself, being honest with yourself, where is this, do I feel that I'm not enough? And then, working on bolstering your sense of self and worthiness, and loving yourself, really taking care of yourself. So I can see Halaliel's role in our awakening, in that kind of bringing our attention to, we are working on things, and it's wonderful to be spiritual, and I don't want to make light of it. It is wonderful to be able to connect in spiritual ways and to express ourselves in spiritual ways. And yet, we're humans struggling with human issues, and we've incarnated for very special reasons to work on things that our souls need to work on in order to grow and evolve. And so I value Halaliel's input in this karma, Lord of Karma. I also have my views on karma have shifted a lot, to say that I don't feel that karma is a punishment of any kind. It's a way of drawing our attention to things that need working on. Karma is a way of experiencing various aspects of ourselves. Say we've been, struggling with, there are so many struggles as a human. Unforgiveness, for example. Struggling with that for several lifetimes, and it haunts us in our current lifetime. And working through that, really delving deep and exploring those issues, such as unforgiveness, and how those can really function as stumbling blocks and hold us back. And I find that having a past life regression can shed a lot of light on things that we've struggled with in past lives. And also, for me, the life between lives is especially effective, because you can view everything. For example, in the Hall of Records, looking at your book of life, you can review everything and see certain themes that have emerged. Maybe you've been working on unforgiveness for 5 lifetimes, and you really want to nail it during this lifetime, and yet it's really hard. The circumstances that say we have created for ourselves make it especially challenging. So the ways that have been heavy, or karma, for me, it means more of an experiential learning rather than a punishment. And also, you hear people say, oh, the chickens are going to come home to roost because so-and-so has been so cruel and so deceptive throughout their lifetime, or whatever. And they may end their lifetime, in blissful wealth and prosperity, and everything may seem, wonderful. And then they may, head on up to their spirit guides, and their spirit guides may kind of say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So karma helps us learn, essentially, and remember who we really are, that oneness, rather than forgetfulness and separateness. So there are thoughts about angels that you need to ask them for help, that they won't spontaneously come help you. And I feel like, from what I've learned from my clients and my own experience, sometimes angels help spontaneously. They see a need on earth, and they come in and they help spontaneously for a variety of reasons. And other times we can actually call upon them and they will respond. And I'm basing, as I say, what I'm saying on what I've experienced. I've had quite a few sessions, past life and life between lives, where a client has experienced their spirit guide as an angel. And it's true that I feel like they show us who they are in a way by showing us these enormous wings. So perhaps that has been passed down through the ages as kind of an identifying characteristic. And maybe they're kind of ethereal wings. And yet one of the signs that they're around is they actually leave feathers. So that's interesting too. It's been my experience that Halaliel is quite proud of his wings. So when he has manifested, his wings have been enormous and he's been quite proud of them. And I've had clients who have had angelic guides say to me, wow, your guide is really proud of his wings, isn't he? Which I find kind of funny. So the Halaliel does pop into other sessions, my client sessions as well, and sometimes has a conversation with other people's angelic guides, and guides who have been human souls as well. It seems to be rare that happens, but it has happened on a few occasions, and people will describe him to me, and I'll say, yes, I know who that is. And what does he have to say? And what is his purpose for being there? And what is he saying to your guide? And I'll hear something like, on occasion, I'll hear, well, they're just kind of standing there with their arms folded, watching us and listening to us. And so there isn't maybe a whole lot of intervention, just some support. My clients have said something like, well, they recognize each other, they know each other. I've had clients who have had guides, a guide as Archangel Michael. That has happened a few times. And you have to understand too, that this is under deep hypnosis. This is under the theta brainwave state, maybe a little deep alpha theta brainwave state. So the way these answers come are in that zone of a person wouldn't be able to falsify something. It's very genuine, it's very true, and it's also consistent. The details have been very consistent when I've had these experiences with clients. So angels generally do proclaim themselves in sessions when reaching the life between life state. I will say most spirit guides who meet clients are souls. They're highly evolved souls who have had human experiences. So that's why I was so surprised and actually, is this really happening? When I started having more clients who were having angelic guides. And yet, as I say, the information that was reported back for their audio, for their tape, their recording was so consistent, and listening back and kind of evaluating. And as I kind of touched upon, the angels aren't supposed to incarnate according to lore. And yet I find that a couple of my clients are actually angels who are incarnating. And there are so many questions, of course, that I have, why are you incarnating as an angel and that sort of thing. And as an angel, why are you incarnating as a human? And the answers are kind of consistent in that they want to help. They want to help. They see and feel that Earth is having so many struggles, and they want to have that human experience to influence, to support, to help Earth, to help humanity and of course everything, the plant kingdom, and yeah, all of the animals, and it there are angels who are intimately concerned with Earth's well-being and also Earth's evolution, evolution of our souls and of life on Earth and our relationships on Earth with one another and with the animal kingdom and plant kingdom and mineral kingdom, all of that. So I've also had clients who have traveled to the angelic realm. Usually it's because they're an incarnating angel, but not always. I've had clients who have just explained what they're experiencing, the vibrational difference as they travel through the etheric layers of being, or the astral planes, if you will, and that the angelic realm is highly vibrational. It's a different space than where most of our souls tend to go, although everyone's soul has such a unique experience too. And also there's been mention of angel choirs. There's a lot of incredible singing that you just cannot even imagine on Earth, hearing on Earth, due to the high vibrations and just the beauty and peace in that realm, in that dimension. So divine messengers, angels are also kind of known as divine messengers, and also not just for history books and the Bible and that sort of thing. It seems as though during life between life sessions, sometimes they really have messages, and even in our waking lives, there are messages that can come through, and we just need to really kind of sink in, take a couple of deep breaths, and kind of tune into what we're seeing or hearing or feeling, what we're noticing. There is a lot of angelic presence in our world. I had a session very recently where a woman, when her soul went to the spirit realm, there was an enormous angel who was covering the earth with this, it was a red mist. She described a red mist, and she identified the angel as Kuan Yin. She's not Asian, and yet she clearly identified this angel as Kuan Yin, and she's known as a goddess or angel of compassion. And this client described how Kuan Yin was spreading this beautiful red, true red, she said, vapor all around the earth to try to heal the earth, to heal its people. And that also there were many helpers that Kuan Yin had at different points all around the earth. So it was a beautiful description, and she was in tears describing it. It was very moving for her to have that connection with Kuan Yin and the angelic connection, and also to view that beautiful compassion, that layer of compassion that she was spreading throughout the earth. And she even described how it's done, the mechanism of how this loving, compassionate vapor is spread all around the earth, kind of like a blanket. But she described how Kuan Yin sort of stirred the vapor, stirred the red vapor, and then with her helpers, everyone stirred the vapor and kind of spread it around the earth. So it was pretty interesting. And from what I understand too, through some of these sessions, especially if I have an off-world traveler, someone who has an experience in another realm, on another planet, for example, that there are angels there as well. So of course, everything is filtered through our understanding, our in this lifetime through our brain and the way we interpret things. And yet it is really interesting to hear the different experiences people have, and the fact that angelic presences are off-world as well. Angels have often been referred to as the heavenly host. So there's been a lot going on in the unseen world, in the heavens, if you will. So it's interesting when they want to connect with us on Earth, or in with our souls as we travel to LBL, for example. Does anyone have anything to say or share about angelic experiences? Or
yeah, I could start. Just wanted to
thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Really interesting and fascinating to listen to you. I just would like to say that I come from a shamanistic tradition. Doing the LBL sessions, it seems to me quite clearly that in the old days, a shaman had to go on top of a mountain and sit there to meditate for a week to get in touch with the higher beings like angels, that's generally speaking. But now they're much more among us, but of course on another frequency. But I have a lot of clients also who tell me that they have angels or archangels with them, and they had since childhood maybe. And I had an experience myself in my last LBL, which I did with my colleague Dorothea online, where I met a female large angel who was holding on to a huge candle, and she was enormous, and she told me that you bring light to this earth. And I was of course crying a lot because I didn't know what she meant, but she said that there's there's great forces at work now to help out with uplifting in some dark moments, and I myself have been quite depressed for sometimes, because I feel that there's so much suffering, as it has always been in many incarnations for me, but still this angel showing up was so uplifting for me that I was we had a long dialogue, and she told me many things about my work with LBL, as Dorothea and I met because we had a project in the Michael Newton Institute to exchange information about why we work with LBL personally and as an organization. So this is when I met this angel who, she said that she's supporting me in my work. That was comforting. Yeah.
Very, very beautiful. It is very moving.
I'm wondering, Elizabeth, if people who come to you and who have experienced themselves as angels, I'm wondering if it is actually a misinterpretation of an off-world presence, or if there is if they are incarnating from another planet, and how are they able to distinguish between being in another life form before vibrationally, or as opposed to being an angel? Or is there any differentiation? Are they able, do they seem to have any connection to other lives on other planets, or is this really purely angelic? I'm just wondering if there's any confusion about that.
Sure. Oh, sure. No, the particular case that seems to come to mind, well, that does come to mind, it really had nothing to do with an off-world. Her guide was angelic, and she was angelic. The guide held up a mirror so she could see herself.
Oh, okay.
And also her group, her soul group, they were all angelic. So to me, it felt very, very authentically Angelic. And she did explain how mostly they rarely will take a human form, and that it was her responsibility to return with all of her experiences and learning to share with a group. So it did feel very authentically. And in this lifetime, interestingly enough, she has a lot of mental health issues that she struggles with, a young woman with struggles. And yet having the session really shed a lot of light on why she chose certain things to struggle with, to report back to her angelic family. So it seemed very authentic, as opposed to, the off-world. Those can be really interesting too. I see 3 suns and 4 moons and that sort of thing.
Well, sometimes it's the energy of that presence in another lifetime on another planet that I was wondering if it was really clearly differentiated as angelic as opposed to simply a light form in another kind of body that had a large light presence in it. And that's why I was asking for clarification, because people come in and they don't know what they've been, and so they're really trying to figure it out. So that's really interesting that all of her environment was angelic and that it was internally consistent what she was experiencing.
Yes, and she was very, very deep. Very, you know how you can tell when someone is very deep. She was truly, and that was a really special experience.
Elizabeth, thank you for this wonderful introduction into angelic world. It's very, very interesting, and I'm sure many people will see this and they will want more information. From where I stand now, I would like to ask you if you can get us more information on how they communicate with us. Like, what are the signs you mentioned, the feathers, maybe the numbers, but what else do they use to communicate with us, to tell us, hey, this way, don't go the other way, right? So could you tell us more about that?
Sure. The numbers you mentioned, like the 1111, the 4 1s, or you just might for some reason glance up at the clock and see 4 1s or see 3 3s, or with me it's the 3 4s that really make me pay attention. So whenever I see those numbers, I try to just take a couple of nice deep breaths and turn inward and kind of objectively observe, what am I doing? What am I thinking? Is there something I should be focusing on? And sometimes there's a message or a feeling, a sensing. Another thing that grabs my attention, and I've heard other people say this, a high ringing in the ears, and it's not a tinnitus kind of thing. It's just all of a sudden a random high pitched, and usually it's my left ear, and that's where I feel my angelic presence and guides come in, is on the left. So that high pitched ringing for no real medical reason can be something as well. The feathers, of course, and I've heard not only departed loved ones who are visiting us, but sometimes angels can reach out to us through a butterfly that appears out of nowhere, a dragonfly. I've had clients say that these flowers that never bloomed all of a sudden would bloom when they were having a hard time, or flowers that they didn't even know were there would suddenly push up through the earth, and they'd look and there would be these flowers. They'd lived in this house for 20 years and never seen them before. And I feel like tuning into symbols and subtle signs as well can help them communicate with us, being very, very open. And also I encourage people to sit in those vibrational states of love, gratitude, compassion, joy, peace, all of those things that are innately part of our souls that we sometimes forget in the hustle and bustle and chaos of our earthly environment, and spending time in nature, of course. That's really important, to spend time in nature. So there may be something I've forgotten too.
Thank you. Definitely, it's very it's a lot of information. Yeah, yeah. You mentioned the stringing and maybe a sudden feeling like you mentioned the presence during your Reiki attunement.
Yes.
Yeah, usually during those highly energy charged sessions, as during the LBL. Well, I guess there can be a lot of angelic presence apart from the guides who come to help us help others. So it's amazing how it develops.
I agree. Yes, it really is. And over the years, I've had many Reiki sessions, and many things have come in for me and for my Reiki practitioner, master teacher. I feel like when you have a really wonderful energy session like Reiki, but there are others too, the veil is quite thin. So these higher frequency energies, such as the angelic presences, and of course our spirit guides too, it's much easier for them to come in and reach us, communicate with us. So
yes. I can share some experience about when during an LBL we go to childhood memories, and some clients who remember then, or they were in the moment when they saw angels as a child, but they had actually forgotten as grown-ups, but it came back to them. Personally, I had in my first LBL a memory as 5 years old, when I really saw fairies when I was hypnotized, and I can't remember seeing fairies, but it was amazing to see the fairies, and that was my first LBL. I thought it was amazing to be so deeply in trance. I saw them around a tree in the garden where I grew up, and I just remember loving that tree, but I couldn't remember why really, but I had actually clients remember these things, which is also similar to remembering near-death experience in an LBL. And I had a few of those who had open heart surgeries, and they saw themselves from above having the surgery, but one of them told me that, oh my God, there's someone else there working with me, with the surgeons. Who's that? And it was and it was two angels. He saw from himself above, and looking down, he saw two angels working with him, and it turned out to him that it was the angels who saved his life, and of course the surgeons too. but it was,
yeah.
So that was amazing what people can access in an LBL. As you said, the wheel is so thin and it's always so authentic, and the client is super surprised what they
yes, they are. They really are.
Yes. Yeah.
Very surprised.
Have you ever have you any one of you had experience with clients remembering childhood when they saw angels? Have you heard that yourself? Have you ever heard it?
Not directly with clients, but yes, with young children who spoke about this with their parents.
I see. Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth.
Oh no, this is great. I love the discussions, the interchanges, and all of that. And it's funny. Not funny really, but so much is socialized out of us when we grow up, when we're talking about angels and fairies and all of those mystical experiences. I had one of my spirit guides would come have tea with me from the age of around 3 to 6 or so. And then, of course, and my mother was wonderful about it. She would ask how my lady was doing. How's your lady today? And would you like another piece of toast or whatever? A very clear presence, though, this woman, this spirit guide woman, and she helped me a lot in my adult life as well. I guess what I'm getting at is it is kind of sad that a lot of those mystical experiences, those magical experiences we have as children, adults will say to us, "Oh, don't talk about that. You're making that up. People will think you're weird." That didn't really happen. So we kind of shut down like, "Ooh, I guess I shouldn't talk about that," but it's really it's precious when clients remember those special moments, and in the womb, even the very special moments sometimes in the womb. Sometimes their angel or spirit guide might be with them in the womb, or they're kind of, the soul is floating in and out of the womb at times, and the guide is nearby or the angel is nearby. That's fascinating, though, about the surgery, the near-death experiences and the surgery, and having the two angels there. It's amazing. I also found that when I had Reiki sessions, what was interesting about this angelic presence is my practitioner would be, say, working on my throat or my heart chakra, or doing different hand positions, and I would have the sense of these enormous hands holding my feet. And this happened on several occasions. So that angelic presence at the foot of my massage table was also holding my feet, and that was just amazing. I feel like if we can just be open, that's one of my mantras, to remain open to different experiences, different things that come in, and not to discount or push them away, but to just be curious and explore and be open. So
I find that that especially in Reiki, I've had clients who feel that if I'm at their feet, that they feel hands on their shoulders, or they feel another set of hands.
Yeah.
That happens all the time when they really open
yes,
and connect. I feel that angels and the connection to angels, that they are a comforting way to open up to the unseen and the unknown, and that
true.
that people are able to connect and then allow for other intuitive connections, to allow for that connection. See, we just have another angel coming in here.
It's his strength.
Yes.
He felt the energy.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's white. How perfect, because a lot of angels, when they first appear in the sessions, are like bright white. So
Yes,
that's
yes.
perfect.
He's very, I felt actually, as we talk about this, I have 3 cats, that somehow it feels, even for the clients, that their guides or angels working through the cats somehow. It could be that animal, of
Yes.
course, but it's in their feeling, at least. It's like, so what an LBL helps people remember the magic of life, really. So that's why I love this work so much, because it opens, of course, it opens us to the unseen, surely, and for people who did not trust their intuition before the LBL, they usually do after. Many of those I speak with, actually, and start believing in magic again.
That is wonderful. It really is. There's so much more. There's so much more. It's amazing.
Yes.
And I do feel, oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say,
wondering.
oh.
I was wondering if you could give us a taste of the vibration of angelic realm that your clients report. Can you in any way describe with any words or sensations, how could we get a taste of how it is? What's that frequency? What's that place like?
I would say, of course, everyone's taste in music varies, but I would say, from what I've heard, I haven't actually visited the angelic realm. I've just felt angelic presence. But that high vibration, that high frequency, feelings of joy, of bliss, of ecstasy, of comfort and well-being. And in the angelic realm, I've heard, of the singing, the choirs of angels, and how that just is fills you. You almost, disappear in the beauty of that unified singing, from what I gather. So yeah, joy, bliss, peace. And when you're in nature, for example, when you're really enjoying the ocean, the waves crashing on the shore, and just feeling at one and peaceful with your environment, that's very similar to the frequency. We can find that within ourselves as well. And that brings me to a lot of times clients will say, well, I think it was an angel, but maybe it was a spirit guide, maybe it was a highly evolved or highly experienced, rather than evolved, experienced being who came and visited me. Maybe I was just making up the wings to feel comfortable with that, or and yet, some of the sessions have clearly, just emphasized that this is definitely an angelic being. And I feel the same about Halileel when he's present. A lot of times I feel his presence. I really, really strongly feel his presence on the left side of my head. And I feel he prompts me to ask certain questions at certain times, or he'll say, it's not in words, it's that languageless connection. You might want to dig a little deeper here. You might want to avoid this topic at this time, or just very subtle feelings that you receive. And I feel that angelic communication is probably very similar, or maybe even the same, from our spirit guides. But yeah, it is interesting. And is it really important, I guess, to distinguish, well, this is angelic and this is my highly experienced guide who's sharing with me and guiding me. It's all one, really. And yet I am fascinated with the angelic energy and the appearance, and the how my clients are experiencing angels as well. It's really interesting. And fairies are too, Rita. I've seen fairies around my squash plants. So
yes. But thinking of right now that what is so nice with LBL, the mythology that Michael Newton writes about also in Journey of Souls and Destiny of Soul, his bestsellers, that we keep on asking. I mean, if we're not sure, we don't jump to conclusions, so to say, but we ask. And because the client, of course, projects a certain image. I mean, a guide could be a projected image of old traditions in genetics or whatever, but just to keep on asking, like you have also said in your lecture here in the beginning, that you you ask, and then this way we find out more and more, and even go deeper and deeper with questions, and not to question anybody, but to the Michael Newton way. I think it's nice that it's a kind of coaching approach always, because he talks about in his books about someone seeing Jesus or seeing Buddha or something like that, and
Right.
maybe Archangel Michael, but maybe that is just a guide. But yeah, so you asked that, Diana, too, that how do we know? But we keep on asking, and we just trust what they say, I guess. I mean, if it feels authentic.
Sure. And the ultimate result, if it's healing for them.
Yeah,
right?
It's a subjective. The subjective experience of the client is the key, of course. So
For sure.
I think that sometimes seeing an angel is what then opens them to a new experience, because it's more dramatic than just seeing a blob of purple energy, and that it draws your attention, like, oh, I expected to see energy. I expected to have a guide. I didn't expect to have these huge wings next to me. And it focuses the attention. I think angels come in because our attention needs to be focused. It's like having the numbers come up and being mindful and being present. When I walked into my kitchen the other day from outside, and the numbers on the stove were 1111, and it's like, oh, that drew my attention right away. I mean, you're all of a sudden you're zeroed in on, what does that mean? Why is that here? And I think angels work in that way, that they help us focus, and that they're very good at interacting with us. And we tend to pay attention because it's a known that we have this sense of angels, while other kinds of guides you may not have a sense of unless you do this work. We're well aware of it, but the average person who's walking around may not have much of a sense of their guides, but they may have angels from childhood. They may have this understanding that there is angelic presence, while other kinds of guides, if they haven't read about it, they may not connect with. And I think it's just an easy way for people to connect if they have not stronger connections.
Right, a comfortable connection, like, oh yeah, that's an angel. As a child, I went to Sunday school, I learned about angels. Right, yeah, so it's comfortable, so it can make them more open to other energies. The strangest guide I've ever had that a client described as her guide was an ottoman or a stool. Well, that's turns out, that ottoman urged her to sit on top of it, to put her energy on top of it in the LBL, and it whisked her around from space to space, from dimension to dimension, and she had incredible experiences, with a council and her book of life and all sorts of things, or groups, and different groups too. So that was kind of cool. I'm like, an ottoman, really? Oh.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people have heard about this. I had this once when I was younger, that I was stepping into the street and I was pulled back, and then the bus was boom, like that. And my time wasn't up probably then. And I guess a lot of people have experienced, if it's angels, what it is, who knows? But it's an event. I mean, or if it's the nervous system reacting, I don't know. But it's 1 second and you could have been dead,
Sure.
Yeah, so a lot of clients tell me about such things, but maybe they don't jump to conclusion that it was an angel, but they felt clearly, or they were in accident and they were somehow, there was some kind of intervention, like you said in the beginning, Elizabeth. So
divine intervention.
Yeah.
I had that happen one night when I was going to work, and there was a terrible ice storm, and then it started raining, so I was hydroplaning, and I was all over the road and there were cars coming. And I was like, I just took my hands off the wheel. I'm like, help.
Really?
And this presence guided me safely over to on the other lane, but on the soft patch off from the road. And I was like, wow, I thought I was a goner. I think most people have had some of those close encounters and divine intervention. And I haven't really been able to distinguish, say, a difference between our spirit guides and angelic guides. A lot of times as humans, we want to name everything. We want to categorize everything. Well, this guide had these characteristics, and a lot of times, as we know, the guides will say, you can't pronounce my name, or they'll say, I don't have a name, it's a frequency, it's a vibration. And so at times, you know, I wonder, usually the client will tell me, this is an angel. And as Diana mentioned, maybe it's because it's a comfortable kind of encounter and can open them further to other experiences. And then other times I feel like, you know, authentic angelic presence, just the energy is very, very tall and very, very huge, I guess you could say, in my experience anyway. And so does it really matter? They're messengers and they're here to help us. And I feel it is a comfort. It is a comfort.
If somebody is having these experiences and has people around them who don't necessarily share their awareness or share with their experiences, what would you suggest to them as a way to follow up and to be able to learn more?
Well, I just purchased this book here. Whoops. Let me see. I want it to show up. There we go. This was kind of based on the Edgar Cayce readings, but I think it's really important to study, to listen to YouTube videos, to purchase books, to read a lot of things online. There are so-called angel experts out there like Kyle Gray from Scotland. I would just delve into the subject, kind of like when you're thinking about past lives and, you know, reading various authors. And one thing that did come through Edgar Cayce well, it was actually a message from Halileel kind of through Edgar Cayce, was to not settle for one teacher, but to really open your horizons, broaden your horizons, and do a lot of research and do a lot of contemplation, and most importantly, to, you know, going within what really resonates with you and what is true for you. And but yeah, it's been fun. It's been interesting to read and hear different perspectives and experiences.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
So,
this was
you're
very,
welcome.
very enriching. And as we are approaching the end of the video, our time is up soon. I would like to just thank you for choosing this subject. And really, this resonates with so many people. The earth is going through a lot of shifts and changes. People are going through very hard times, and we need their help. The angelic realm, our guides, our own higher selves, everyone's working for making this world a better place. And what would you say to our listeners, to our viewers, as in just few words, to summarize all the video that I know we talked a lot, but what would you say to them as final message?
I feel like the messages have been pretty consistent from the angelic realm, as well as from the spirit realm and our guides. And that is, you are not alone. We are with you. You may not be able to see us in a physical form, but we are with you energetically, supporting you. And you are so loved. You are so loved and so cherished and so precious. And so don't give up. Don't give up on yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.